So I spent the last evening and this morning, in addition to fighting a head cold, kind of digesting what I took away from the meeting yesterday at Olive Township. And I wanted to talk for a minute or two for whoever wants to listen, bearing in mind that I am not an elected official of New Carlisle, Olive Township, or St. Joe County, bearing in mind I have no affiliation with any of the aforementioned other than living in all of the above, apparently, and paying taxes to various municipalities therein. And confusingly, there's been a couple of different names, but there's the Northwest Indiana Logistics Center master plan, which is now the Indiana Enterprise Center master plan. And that's what the meeting at the New Carlisle Library was about last night, along with the New Carlisle Economic Development Plan, the master plan for the town. So I think the first thing that you need to understand, the people that were at the meeting were very fired up. So much so, in fact, that the standing room only crowd was able to successfully derail the agenda for the meeting. The plan was to have a 2 hour long meeting, the first 20 minutes of which would have been a very brief overview of the whole project, followed by breakout sessions into this group is going to talk about transportation, this group is going to talk about the aquifer, this group is going to talk about the logistics of sewage and all that kind of stuff and utilities. This group is going to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. There are going to be different stations that people could go to. They actually said, all right, we're going to change this. We're going to do the 20-minute presentation. They did that. And then when they tried to break out into groups, there were so many questions and so much, no, we want answers now from the audience that they said, all right, we're going to do 45 minutes of question and answer. And then that's basically how the meeting went. Really very passionate, very emotional, as you'd expect. A lot of people don't want to see their homes taken. Now, to preface all of this, I have a very tenuous grasp on what eminent domain is, how it works, the rights of homeowners are supported and also not supported by various court cases. What I know is that the St. Joe County Economic Development Board needs to understand, once they put out a map like this one, the one that was published on the website and the one that was published in various news sources and newspapers around the area. When you publish a map like this that shows measurements, this parcel has 156 acres of industrial, this parcel has 970 acres of industrial, this is 117 acres of commercial and retail, and that's people's farms and fields and houses. Now say what you want, set in stone, not set in stone, flexible or otherwise, this plan is what the county wants. They're pushing for it very hard. And I can give personal evidence to that because after this meeting, when I was going to these different stations and talking to the different members of the St. Joe County Economic Board, one of the representatives, who shall go unnamed right now, I pointed out that the area I live, the property, is labeled retention. And I said, just to make sure we're clear, that's like a retention pond. If all these different properties get built up as industrial or manufacturing around us, you're going to need to take this land, take this property, demolish the buildings, and turn it into a retention area. And he said, oh, is this your property? And I said, well, partially. Without really waiting for me to finish, he said, are you interested in selling? That doesn't sound like a still planning kind of comment to me. And when I clarified, look, man, this is a pretty big block that you've got set aside for retention. I'm a small chunk of it. And he said, well, would you be willing to sell? That's my first concern, is even though this is a flexible plan, the county and its representatives and the developers of this plan are actively, if not anything else, actively asking homeowners and property owners, are you willing to part with your property? I left him my phone number and email to see, out of curiosity, what would happen. Haven't heard from him yet. The fact that they are looking at this planning stage is a little bit concerning. The second big concern that I have about the Indiana Enterprise Center is the use of a TIF district to help pay for some of the logistics. Tax Increment Finance District is a tool, an economic tool that local municipalities will use to help pay for some of the logistical foundation blocks for economic development, such as bigger expanded roads, rail hookups, and branch lines, high capacity electrical lines, plumbing, sewers, water, drainage, all that kind of stuff. The logistical building blocks that are needed to handle major manufacturing development. There's a TIF PowerPoint that's on the St. Joe County Strategic Planning Team website for the Indiana Enterprise Center. I'm not a big fan of it. It's written not super well, but I will link it in the description of this video anyway. I would highly recommend you take a look at the PDF that I've uploaded from Purdue University, which is available right there. And it's done by Larry DeBoer from the Department of Agricultural Economics at Purdue University, specifically the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. And it's a very well done piece, and it explains what a TIF district uses. I'm going to summarize it really, really quickly. Basically, tax incremental financing is used to promote economic development, which was explained to us during the meeting. Let's say there's a place in a county or a city where the government wants to develop. The area doesn't have the needed infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, buildings, amenities, and all that kind of stuff. So the city or the county creates a TIF allocation area. Put it to you this way. Let's say there's right now the only thing available, the only taxable business there is a very modest gas station. Property taxes paid on this property continue to go to the county, the school corporation, and other units that overlap that TIF area. The city then issues a bond, borrowing money in order to build the infrastructure, the roads, the highways, the electrical lines, and such. With that infrastructure in place, businesses, manufacturers, factories will invest, and the new incremental property, the new properties, those taxes that are paid are diverted from the schools, the cities, the different properties. They're diverted to pay the debt and the principal on this bond. I'm a social studies teacher, and I'm still trying to get my head around the economics of this whole thing. Again, take a look at the PDF that I've linked. Take a look at the very well done explanation of what a TIF is. What does this mean for us in relation to the Indiana Enterprise Center? Basically, any buildings, any developments, any new property that is built and developed in this TIF district in Olive Township, the tax money will not go to New Carlisle, will not go to Olive Township until the bond that was organized and paid for and borrowed by the St. Joe County Economic Development Board, that money won't go to the local government. The third real concern that I have that I took away from yesterday's meeting and that I've been kind of bouncing around since I was interviewed by the local ABC affiliate a couple of days ago, this is inevitable. And that bothers me the most because this is something that St. Joe County has said we are going to pursue. Again, I go back to the comment made by one of the board representatives to me after the meeting. Are you willing to sell? This is something that St. Joe County wants to bring in. I said during the interview with ABC, I'm all for jobs. I'm all for economic development. I want to keep manufacturing jobs here in Indiana. I want to build the local economy. I mean, you'd have to be crazy not to. But a lot of the concerns that come with new manufacturing are shared by a lot of the people that are neighbors of mine here in Olive Township. Are we going to live in a neighborhood of smokestacks? What's this going to do to the groundwater? What's this going to do to the air quality? And while we got a few of the answers from the St. Joe County Economics Board and the developers and the consultants at the meeting yesterday, you could tell reading between the lines that they're here to listen, but this is something that the county is definitely going to pursue. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be in a year or 2 years or 5 years, but within 10 or 15 years, we're going to have a lot more conversation about what buildings are going to go, which properties are going to go, which buildings and properties are going to be surrounded by manufacturing. I mean, the county made it clear. New Carlisle got, depending on who you are and how you think about it, lucky or unlucky. We've got 2 rail lines. We've got the toll road not too far away, 2 state highways. New Carlisle is the ideal setting for an economic development district. I've said it once, and I'm going to continue saying it throughout this process. New Carlisle and Olive Township are kind of at the mercy of the St. Joe County Economics Board. We need to have these meetings not at the county city building in South Bend. We need to have them in Olive Township. We need to have them during the evenings when people can attend them. We need to have a lot more input to this. Economic development, good, fine, wonderful. But what are we, the farmers, the landowners, the people living in the country, in the rural areas of St. Joe County, what are we going to have to sacrifice? That's the biggest concern for a lot of us. What's the county going to ask us to sacrifice to get these jobs and these manufacturing plants in this area? And are we going to be willing to do that? And are we going to be able to come to an agreement, or is this going to turn into a fight of farmers and landowners against an economic development board that has only to this point had only a small, very small, single digit handful of meetings in Olive Township? If you want any more information about this, click the link in the description. I will link to the Indiana Enterprise Center website on the St. Joe County Economic Development Board's webpage. A lot of good information there about what the county is planning to do. As I mentioned, I'll also link in the TIF presentation from Purdue University. I'll also link in the picture, the map that was released earlier this week about what zoning and what plans that the County Development Board has for this area. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hash it out in the comments section below and get a hold of me. Love to get your 2 cents and hear what you have to say about this whole process.